Hello, we are live. Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Paint Fumes. I'm Lynell Ingram, the artist. We are going to be continuing to paint. I think we are in part 4 of working on this kind of what is going to be a creepy clown lady painting for the month of October. You know, Halloween time, we gotta have some eerie, fun, cozy, scary things going on. At least that's my worldview. I see, oh, Era's set. You got up at 10 a.m. for this. Hello. Yeah, so I want to start out, first of all, by saying thank you to everybody. I just broke over 500 subscribers on YouTube this week, and I am floored and honored, and means a ton to me, and thank you, everybody that has subscribed and watches and hangs out with me over here. But this is my first of 2 weekly streams, Monday evenings, Central Time US at 7 p.m. and then also on Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. So we are gonna keep working on this lady. Last week I spent a lot of time adding some more layers, especially in the face, refining some things, adding some depth with little tones of color. So it's kind of like having the white base on her just about done. Like the white makeup base that goes underneath everything on the clown. So the last details I'm planning on doing, the last things, is going to be the actual clown makeup, the fun stuff. So kind of saving that for last. And there are still some areas, like I think that her neck here gets a little flat, and there's a few things that I can yet even still touch up on her, but I'm pretty happy with how this is going. And so today my main focus is going to be working first on the background a little bit more, and then we'll start working into the hair. I might touch on the ruffle, what is essentially like the ruffle collar a little bit. I think that I can add some little parts that are a little stronger, a little more detail, or a little more something going on there. So we will decide on that, because right now the most like white is here. And I don't mind some of that being there, but I don't want this to be the primary focal point when looking at this piece. So we are going to get going here. And to start with, I'm going to start with laying in some background. If I cover up some areas where I've sort of blocked in the hair, I'm not worried about that. We'll go back to it and keep adding layers and kind of sculpting things till it all comes together. And so I'm working with acrylic paint. So for building my palette, one of the main things I've been working with to try to make things go a little bit more smoothly, get the paint palette to last maybe a little bit longer than it might, is to add some slow dry medium from Liquitex. So I just add a little bit of this to my palette. All my paints get mixed with that before I start blending my colors, and that kind of helps them. It gives them a very slight quality of the oil where you can do a little bit more wet on wet painting. But even then, when you can slow down the drying time of acrylic, that means instead of like 3 minutes, you've got maybe 8. So best case scenario without. But yeah, we're gonna get going here and start making the colors. Zoom out for a second so you can see my palette as I'm building them. It's just down here, and I'm just like to flirt with danger and take my book. This is paper palettes that I've been using. Just kind of hook it in here so it kind of precariously rests there, but that's kind of how I'm starting. Okay, I think I'm going to lay this down first this time. I'm just going to kind of do a little run of the back of the palette, and then add my colors across, blend them in. And for starting with the background, it's going to be, I want it to be like a dirty, grungy, maybe a wall kind of thing in the background with everything dripping. So, there. Being difficult. Okay. White, titanium white to start. And I definitely, even though I'm using white in the background, it definitely not something where I want to be the brightest element of the painting. I want it to be an interesting texture, but to not take away anything from the focal point, which should be primarily like her face. By the time all is said and done, that is the intention. I'm going to also use some raw umber as a bit of a neutralizer. Kind of a cool brown tone, darker one. A little bit of Naphthol red. Hello, Jim. How are you tonight? Okay, so a little red on here. This is the tube that I hate because the thing is not hardly connected, but it is what it is. Okay, red. Put it right there. That's probably more than, well, that's more than I need for the background, but it's fine. My go-tos, yellow oxide. And Payne's Gray. For this particular painting, that's my dark tone, my black, so to speak. Oh, let's see, anything else for this? That might be an okay place to start. I can add more as we go along. Oh, you know what I remembered? Oh, you're not ready for anything today? That's all right. You are here, as you said. Okay, I mentioned a couple times, oh, it's dusty, that I did this money doll that I'm kind of using as inspiration for this piece, and I finally remembered to bring it into my studio. There she is. Kind of little. They're small. So she stands about 6 inches tall, and I just painted the little money, the blank one. Gave her a little face of like makeup that's running a little bit and a little smeared. And the black paint around here is running down. So this is forever ago. When was this? Probably 2009 maybe? So that's, yeah, it's been a little while. But that's where I initially started doing anything with like a clown lady. And kind of where the inspiration for this is. All right, oh. Since I add my slow drying medium, I do need to kind of like mix that into my colors before I start blending my shades. All right, hopefully do some magic for me. So you definitely don't need to use mediums if you're working with acrylic paint. But it depends on what you're trying to achieve. Sometimes they can be very helpful. But they're an option. You can use them for glazing type applications of paint if you want to do like translucent layers. It's really good for that. Or slowing down the drying time if you want it to be matte versus super glossy. You can add mediums that do those things, and then there's there's mediums that have different kind of qualities. There's some that allow you to do pouring, really thin it down, and there are some that will like add weird textures to your paint. Like there's some have like glass bits in them, so you get little like glittery specks and textures, or plastery or crackly or any of those things. People are always coming up with some ways to do them. And of course I use a medium, just a plain, completely translucent medium when I finish a painting, as like a protecting layer over the paint before I add a varnish. Super glad to be here for the attempted wrap up of this piece. The values are so good. I probably will not, I'd be shocked if I wrap this today. I can hope. I kind of figure today it'll be like getting background, work on the hair, and do this, and then probably at least one more stream. And that would be when I'll do the fun stuff makeup. So maybe on Thursday? So as long as I get it done before Halloween, I'll be happy. Because actually the week of Halloween, I am probably going to be a bit out of town. Not to do anything suitably Halloween-ish, but just in general. It appears, I do believe that's going to be the case this year. Last year I actually did a haunted ghost tour on Halloween. It was kind of fun and interesting. And I do not for a second believe that any of the places I was at actually had ghosts, but for somebody who enjoys lots and lots of horror things, I am a bit of a cynic. I need the evidence. I haven't seen anything that's made me believe that there's ghosts or anything else like that, or reals. Just don't buy it. But nonetheless, ghost tour was fun. Fun thing to do, random. It's late and it's dark out and you're walking around super old houses or graveyards with flashlights and things. So can't complain about that. So I'm adding a bit of, that's where I'm putting it, like a flatter layer. I'm mixing here for a little portion of the wall, the background in general. Doing a kind of almost like dry brush technique with it. Not entirely, but almost. I wonder, does anybody have any like particular memories of doing anything as a child with Halloween? I feel like it's changed a lot over the years, and in different places it can be a little bit different. I grew up in a pretty small town, so once I got to be, you know, preteen or whatever, I could go out and trick-or-treat with my friends. And that was always kind of the best thing ever, just getting the ridiculously full bags of candy. That was the best. We don't celebrate it here. Yeah, I know that like America is kind of, it's sort of been our thing, but I know that it's starting to creep out into other places. So I just wondered. There's still, of course, trick-or-treating. I live in kind of a suburbia now, so it's more of a community event kind of thing, it seems like. It's less like the kids just going around themselves and just, you know, doing their thing, and it's more like families go to some event and there's gonna be like some costume contests and stuff. Then of course we have the adult versions of everything, parties, costume parties. But it's interesting because it's always been, I think largely it's been a kid's thing for a long time. Or teenagers getting in trouble, and then randomly parties for adults. But people have been spending like insane amounts of money on Halloween. I think this year in terms of decorations and costumes and everything, we're on track for like $10 billion in spending for Halloween alone. Which seems kind of crazy. But, I mean, you should see some of the houses around here and what they do. People really do kind of go all out. It's fun and interesting. But, there we go. The whole dressing up in costumes and the desire to do that, how much that gets like picked up in people kind of all ages, from, you know, people going to date clubs and parties and bars, or, you know, or kids getting dressed up and going with their friends. There is some psychological elements to that, like what makes us enjoy that, which I was reading about, because you know me, I love the stuff. There is, I think, goes without saying, an element of anonymity. Am I saying that right? Oh my goodness. You know, just put on a mask, and you know, I last stream I was talking quite a bit about masking. You put on a mask, a different face, a different costume, and you be someone else, and it kind of lets us step out of our worries, our concerns of real life. You know, you're dressed up like Freddy Krueger, you're not thinking that much about what bills are due and all the chores that you have. It's a bit of an escape. It's also another way in which it's kind of easy to address fears. Like, if you dress up as something you're legitimately scared of, then it kind of demystifies it a little bit. You can make fun of it and have fun at its expense a little, and just be in something's shoes. Like, it's almost like exposure therapy. And the same thing with any way that we expose ourselves to scary things for fun. Haunted houses, movies, bungee jumping, mountain climbing, thrill-seeking behaviors for people who are either adrenaline or just like sensation junkies. It looks really light right now. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna build up a few more layers to kind of dirty it up as that dries, which shouldn't take long. It's a pretty thin layer, and even with the addition of the retardant, it's already almost dry. Clean my brush here a little bit. But also, dressing up as something that you aren't, or someone you aren't, or maybe people don't know who you are, it also can be freeing in ways like, not just you don't have to worry about your own things, but you could behave in different ways, and people aren't going to know that it's you, which can be like freeing in a positive way. But as we all know from the very existence of the internet, when people don't have accountability to who they are and their behaviors, it can also very negatively affect what they do. You know, kids, teenagers, whatever, the old, as it goes, the trick element of trick-or-treating. You know, if you're wearing a costume, you're probably a lot more likely to do things that would get you in trouble, because Hey, maybe people won't know it's you. Never been to a dress-up or costume party, never done it myself. Yeah, there you go. Jim says you could introduce it to Australia. Have a few friends, fiends over and watch a horror movie, make paper masks, and eat sweets. Yeah, absolutely. Theme get-togethers, whatever it is, that's always fun. And yeah, I mean, any excuse to eat candy when you're an adult, right? No judgment when it's on Halloween. Alright, another brush. Okay. So while this is drying, we'll go back into the face a little bit. Yeah, there's actually a study, or there's probably a few of them. One that goes, it's quite old, from the 70s, I think, that talks about how actually measured how many kids would, if they were anonymous, if they were trick-or-treating at with somebody's house and the person doesn't know who they are, they're not with their parents or whatever, would they, if they have the opportunity, steal? Like, would they take more than they should or were supposed to, or something like that? And the answer was, by and large, yeah, they would definitely do that. Especially, I suppose maybe there's some thought that it's a relatively harmless thing to take an extra couple pieces of candy or whatever. So there's not a huge, there may not be for them a huge moral thing, but there's also an element of, like, if you're in a group of peers, if one of the kids in the group took more than they were supposed to, almost all the others in that group would do it too. That was just like the group mentality thing, which we've all seen. I have a friend in West Chicago who builds an entire graveyard in the first weekend of October, and he has a party the last Saturday. Been going there for decades running now. That's awesome. Yeah, I also know people who have been throwing incredible Halloween parties for many years over. And people really get into it. It's fun. It's an excuse to get together, to be a little silly, try to get a little scared. And by and large, it's quite harmless. And there's also the biological element of being scared together with people. Like, if you go through something fearful with a group of peers, friends, whatever, your body actually releases it does this either way, but the effect of doing it when you're with people is when your body releases okay, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but there's a hormone that your body releases then that actually creates a bonding effect with the people you're with. So you're all scared about something, you all release that particular hormone when you're together, and it has that interesting effect. Other than that, there's just the whole health benefits of scared. There's getting scared. Trying to scare each other is something that goes back, like, in human history. It really, really is in us for some reason. We just, well before movies, there's been scary stories, whether passed down, or whether written or passed down. I mean, just think about stories told around the fire, if you're camping, camp stories. It just seems to be kind of baked into us to enjoy a good scare, and when it's done in a safe way, there's all the health benefits that come of it. Oxytocin. Guys, I'm not good with words, but thank you. Thank you for getting that. I can read it and it makes sense, but try to get me to repeat a thing and then it all falls apart. Here's another element of something that I love and I can relate back to myself in my youth, is what makes us afraid of monsters. Are you familiar with the term like uncanny valley that we use to talk about when you see somebody on a movie or in a show where they're computer generated and they almost look human, but there's that like eerie thing that's not quite right, no matter how close, and almost the closer they get, the weirder it is and the more off-putting it becomes. And they call it the uncanny valley. So we seem to be predisposed to recognize what's similar to us enough to be afraid of what isn't. That's built into us, like in our biology. So by seeing something that has maybe certain human characteristics, but isn't human, like there's also something that isn't right about it, inherently like strikes a fear response in us. So zombies, evil clowns, or just clowns in general for some people. All those types of monsters. Human-esque, but not quite human. That's a big thing, and I have experienced that specific fear when I was very young. I can remember the first couple times. Once being at a grandparent's house where they had like the old playpen or crib for kids that had been, like, it had been used for probably my dad and his sister and brothers, and I remember being put in there probably for a nap when I was quite young, and there was just this doll in there. It was a clown, and it had the head and the hat and this, like a striped body, kind of a lot like my little money doll that I showed, and it but it had no, I don't remember if it was no limbs at all or just no legs. And it freaked me out a lot as a kid. And I think I can remember like throwing it out of the crib because I just didn't want to like be taking a nap with it in there with me. So that's kind of funny. And then there was the other occasion was when I was a little bit older. If anybody remembers David Copperfield, the magician. He had some TV specials back in like, I guess probably 80s and early 90s. I'm thinking it must have been. But he did a demonstration of some trick he was gonna use to vanish in the Bermuda Triangle. Because remember when we were supposed to all be afraid of the Bermuda Triangle? And he demonstrated it using a bunch of drawing mannequins. Just like ones that I have, but apparently don't have in my art studio. They're somewhere else right now. Go figure. Yeah, the drawing mannequin freaked me out because it had like recognizable limbs and body and head, but no face. And a human without a face really terrified me. That was really, really frightening to me. Which is kind of funny to think about now, but yeah, absolutely. I think that makes sense. Yeah, just like I understood that it was this doll, but it really just had this like visceral effect of just being very, ugh, didn't like it. So that's kind of an interesting element. We think we can trace back Halloween perhaps to Celtic culture. Oh, here we are. Oxytocin. Oxytocin. Ah, thank you. I will try to remember that. Sea tips. Yeah, we think we can trace that back to Celtic culture and the seasonal celebration of dressing up in costumes, lighting fires to ward away bad spirits. So inherent, like even that its very roots, Halloween isn't, or wasn't, like particularly evil. That wasn't what it was ever about. Not exactly. It's meant to ward away evil. Scare away the scarers. Okay. Do another layer with the background. Go a little bit darker on this pass and just sort of build up a little bit at a time. Okay. I'm gonna kind of scrub at this a little bit to create. Sure. So maybe it's basically in our genes, in our genetics. Perhaps the desire to experience fear, but in ways that aren't dangerous to us. Like fear when you're actually in physical danger, because it all stems from our desire to stay alive, fear of death, our own mortality. That's kind of where it all stems from, but it's interesting that we enjoy so much as humans. Most of us. I mean, of course, it's not everybody. There's no blanket rule. But a good scare. In a non-threatening way. Where we know we aren't actually going to be hurt. Or sued. I guess when we're talking about like the people who are the adrenaline junkies, there's certainly some assumption with some things that people do. Of course, this last week, new show came out that I was waiting for. That was Fall of the House of Usher. That was on Netflix, and if anybody else, big fan of Edgar Allan Poe stories, I think it's very enjoyable. 10 episodes, I think there were in total. And like a modern retelling, a modern kind of retelling of the Fall of the House of Usher. The actual story is sort of the container for it all. And then each story each episode within the series then kind of expands upon a different story, and then it all ties together. So if you're a big fan of Poe, I think that you would probably enjoy it. I think that it was really well done, looks great, acting's really good. Writing I thought was solid. Very interesting. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it's worth checking out. The family that is at the heart of the story. I'm not going to give away any spoilers or anything, but it's like in the US there's the Sackler family who they're essentially kind of making a version of. And the Sackler family is a pharmaceutical giant company, family-owned company, and they are considered to be very much responsible, and I'm just gonna throw in an allegedly just to, protect myself there, but there's a lot of considering that they're responsible for a lot of the opioid epidemic. And it's like a story about a fictional version of a family like that created this painkiller that was sold as being not addictive, and then in the end it actually has decades of essentially destroying people. That's like just the premise of who the family is that the story revolves around. And I would get all excited when something was like, you're anticipating it coming, because I think I recognize something from one of the stories. And you're just waiting for it all to come together. So, very fun in that sense. Very fun watch. Definitely a couple scenes that do well in the shock. Like they're kind of shockingly brutal, I guess, when things are happening. Few shocking scenes, but yeah, it's interesting. I think if you have enjoyed shows like The Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, this is done by the same director, and you actually would recognize a lot of the actors from all those previous stories. You have a few people from X-Files. We're getting somewhere. I'm gonna zoom back in a little bit since I've gone out a little bit to show my palette, but I think we can get a little closer now. And I'm just kind of gonna continue going a little bit back and forth between background, hair, and subject, and vice versa. And just, quick reminder for everybody following along, watching, if I may be so bold as to ask for, if you are enjoying this, to like and even subscribe if you enjoy it, because then you can get notifications of whenever I'm going live, which is normally twice a week. And just hanging out, painting, chatting, talking about the painting, talking about random things that I've discovered that are interesting, that I hope that will be interesting to anybody else as well. Sharing is caring, y'all. You know, I don't think I've ever done a corn maze. That's kind of a big part of the Halloween season, especially if you grew up in a smaller town, but I never did that. I don't think. I don't remember ever doing a corn maze. Nor have I done, like, around here, there are a lot of those big time pop-up haunted houses. That's a big thing. I think sometimes there's even one in the area, I want to say, that's like produced by a company that's Rob Zombie's company or something like that. I don't know, I'm not certain, don't quote me on that, but something along those lines. I think I might bring one of the kind of hair tendrils down into her face here. Just gonna kind of lightly line it out where I think I want it to be. And then I can start, let's see. Yeah, I think so. Then I can kind of start to build out the width of it. I still got my kind of spooky music playing. I leave it there through the month, but then try to remember to swap it out once November comes. I wanted to have the face pretty much set before I added in. Like my initial sketch had this hair coming in, but I didn't want to actually paint it, and I wanted to have the face pretty well set before I did that. I didn't want to paint around it. Once I'm basically happy with where the face is, I don't mind going back and placing this. So now it's sort of just working out how the scale of it. And I could have waited till I did the makeup too, but I think that won't be too much fun. And I can always touch up if I decide I need to. So the addition of the slow dry medium is definitely allowing me a little bit more freedom of wet on wet application than I might have otherwise been having. So it's got a little bit of a Harlequin Quinn vibe to it, a Joker kind of thing. Little pieces, the hair kind of formed into the hat itself. I'm adding this very dark bit here behind her hair. Shine through in parts, and you could look at it and think that that's maybe part of her hair, and it could be. But I'm also kind of letting it balance with this, gonna let that balance with this very dark over here. A little bit. Because without something else, this becomes very heavy. Fall over. So heavy. So this will possibly change in how much there is and how dark it is as I go. We'll just decide as things continue to develop with this piece. My fan just randomly shut off by itself. That's normal. I don't know if you heard that beep. It's the ghost. If you've ever watched those ghost hunter programs, I haven't. Okay, full disclosure, I don't really watch them and I haven't seen any for a very long time. But the ones I have seen always just feels like a bunch of grown-ups like scaring themselves more so than anything else. Like it just feels like they're out there someplace freaking themselves out by thinking that maybe they hear something or whatever. That's how it always seemed to me. And of course the element of we need to create some kind of element of fear or people aren't going to watch it. I'm sure that's a thing too. It's like the drama that must be created for any kind of reality TV. Not a big fan myself of, well, of reality TV in general. To be honest. Not particularly. I also started watching Lovecraft Country. I think I'm halfway through. There was just one season, and I think it got... I don't know yet if it's a completed story, and I thought I heard that maybe it just got canceled. So I don't know where it'll end. If it ends on a... If it was canceled and it ends on a cliffhanger, then I'll not be so happy, but... A few scenes were filmed in places that I recognize around me, so that was kind of cool. Like, just quick little moments. And... I think it's alright. It's not amazing, super great, super amazing, but I think it's okay. Okay, working it out. Definitely needed to be another big one coming in here. Much as I hate to cover up any of the ear, because I love that ear, I think it just has to. Don't do this at home, people. Don't keep licking your fingers and using that to clean off the paint. This is not the way to do things. It is not a wise thing to do. I have been lurking. Love how the hair is coming about. The texture you're putting in is great. The movement is so hard for me to get. Yeah, it can be very difficult. They're getting themselves scared, right? That's what I always thought. Well, thank you for the hair. It is, yeah, hair's not particularly easy, and I think the best thing you can do is to treat it like big shapes, by and large. Not like you gotta draw all the strands of hair, but first like block in big shapes of the hair and then kind of work in from there. That's probably the best suggestion I can give in terms of trying to get it. And then just, yeah, look at how other people are managing it or accomplishing it in any way that looks good, looks interesting, and try different things, combine different styles until you figure out where your thing comes in. Is that right now? I'm mostly working into larger shapes and larger fields of large-ish textural bits, but I'll go back in at some point and add some more defining little elements here and there. Kind of treating her hair like it's somewhere somewhere in between like dreads and whatever the heck it is that my hair is doing when I wake up in the morning. Which never seems quite normal or based in the laws of physics. One rather random thing. When I am standing for decent periods of time, I think for about anything I'm doing, especially if I'm not wearing my shoes, I find myself like standing like a stork. Like I got one leg up where my foot's resting on my knee. I think it's just to like give one leg a break or something. It's kind of funny. It's weird. Just something I noticed the last couple streams that I've been doing that I know I've done it many times before. Just a random thing. I'm not that clear, I think. While I'm at it, taking a little paint around the edge of the canvas. Whenever I'm working on stretch canvases, I always finish... Usually I wait till the end. But I'll finish the edges, usually, in black. Just to, like, make it neat so it can be hung up, framed or unframed that way. Plus, you know, framing's expensive, so it's good to have options. Second. See what I'm doing. I'm still letting a little bit of a red shine up in this corner. And kind of trying to decide if that's... I want to keep that way. Actually working through my palette pretty well here. definitely enjoy this kind of messy painting. It's very satisfying. It just feels like then you can go back in and add clarity where it matters. Right now, my favorite part of it is over here. I've been working on redoing my website, my web shop. It's always such a pain. But I'm making progress. I have like a working draft of it that's not too bad, and just the old site's still up for the time being until I'm ready to roll out the changes and just yeah, websites. Running out of my colors, so let me look at what time it is. 8:17, still plenty of time to work. Okay. Before I add on more of my hair tones, clean up that brush a little bit. My paint water is getting quite gross. I think it probably pays when you're working on a really big painting, or, I mean, this isn't really big, but it's big, to use something bigger for your paint. I just have like this, I don't know, what is this? How many ounce mason jar? 16 ounce maybe? Something like that. So yeah, you can see my water's quite thick. That's right. I think I might go, I'm gonna go back and do another go on background area. I still am not sure how much of this to leave like it is. In the beginning, I really liked the drips, but it's, I feel like it's probably a little more than it needs to be, perhaps. And the layers I'm putting on now, where initially I was working with just like very much just gray tones, like very neutral grays. Now I'm building in more kind of muddy tones, more earthy neutrals, dirty colors, tans. This is a pretty thin layer of color, but I think it could go a lot flatter, quite honestly. A few more layers like that. Just sort of kind of building up to the point that it starts to become much more flat. That's gonna be my goal here, I think. I'll let that dry a little bit. Because if it's wet and I keep painting over it, you know what that does? It just lifts up some paint. More so than it leaves any down. Still pretty tacky, so let that dry for a minute. Okay. We're doing all right here. Things are coming together a little bit. This might need to get a little darker still. It's just too close. It's a little bit of a different tone, but it's just too close. So, like I said, I'll just keep building on here, tweaking that till I get it to where I like it. And for now, I'm going to work into my lace layers over here a little bit. No? Hello, Watson. Watson's here. Did you come to say hi to everybody? Yeah. Cat break. Aw. All right, let me think. Okay, we are an hour and a half in. And the main thing I'm thinking about yet for tonight is adding a few crisp lines. Probably like little highlight lines along some of the ruffles here. I do want to tone back some of that white also, a little bit. Some of it can still shine through pretty white, but I don't want it all to be quite that bright. So, let me think. I'm gonna put just a hair more Payne's Gray on my palette because I have run out. And I realized I had this old tube that needs to be used up, so that's what... I opened a new tube without realizing I still had so much left in another one I hadn't thrown away yet, so I'm working with that. So I'm kind of like, essentially drawing in mostly the very edge of the ruffle where the light would be hitting it. Kind of just picking up the little outer edge of it. So then that will become, instead of a little bit more defined about where something might begin and end. We're not going for super smooth with this. There's not a lot of floor space in my studio, so I'm always walking into things when I'm not paying attention, cracking the back of my heel on the foot of a chair. No big deal. No big deal at all. I think that's helping a little bit clarify what we're looking at. Not really going for like super realism with this, but I want to just give enough information that you can kind of be pretty confident in what you're looking at, that you know what's happening. Alright, then we can just pull in a little bit more, maybe shadowy tone into that same area where I know for sure I want it to be darker. Go and watch it. Okay, bye, Jim. Thanks for joining. Thank you, thank you. Let's see you Thursday, I hope. And this a little darker as it gets away from the light. Sorts. Although that got a little crazy. Okay, I think that works. There's too much of a little spot there that really draws attention, so we'll get rid of that. There's like a little bullseye there. It's him. He's back again. Comes and goes and comes and goes. Oh, what do you think? Seem to be losing a little bit of a line follow through here. Put that in real quick. A little bit like having a kid that's bored. They just start being like tugging on you. That's my cat. All right, Watson. I always think about getting a dedicated palette cam for when I'm not holding it the entire time, but maybe I should have a dedicated cat cam. Right, Bubby? His response? Naturally. Why would you not? Have you seen the big camera? My cat pulling my shirt. Are you stuck? Here, let me. Yes, I need to trim your nails. Oh my goodness. You're very cute. Little monster. Too much trouble. I think I might... I feel like I need to adjust the back of the neck a little bit. It just feels too flat. Oh my, I'm being yelled at. The mic picking that up. I don't know if you can hear the scolding I'm getting from Watson over here. I hear you, baby. So much drama. How are you? Oh. There's my needy butt. Demanding and needy. I check. Looks like things are still mostly a little tacky. I've added quite a few layers, and while acrylic does dry fast, a lot of layers certainly affects the rate of that, and combined with the retardant I put on to keep it from drying too fast. So we're getting close to probably needing to let things dry. You just needed some love, I think. You stuck to me again? Oh my goodness, I need to clip his toenails. So bad. Now I'm officially coated in a layer of cat hair. If anybody has a terribly needy pet at home with them. It's okay. It's okay, I love him. He's a sweet guy. Yeah, I cat hair on you too, in there. Yeah. Alright. There's definitely one more thing. A little bit of one more thing to do. Now we're really wanting to add more to the background, but it's not dry enough yet. Alright, can I put you down now? Is that okay? Now there's tons of cat hair sticking to me, and probably the painting too. And probably my palette too. Oh my gosh, why are you shutting so much? Oh my. He's not really a big shutter, but today he is. Hi, cat hair. I don't care who you are, I'll make your nose itch. Alright, back to the little brush for just a second. And I just want to add actually I think that might be a little too light for over there because it doesn't need to be super white to be the highlight on that side. So I gotta find the right balance of the lighter grayed out color to be the highlight there. There. What? Are you threatening to walk on my keyboard if I don't pay attention to you? I think he is. Yeah. Just a little bit more suggestion of the edge coming up in front of her here. Just a little bit. Oh my goodness, yes. Cat, it's nuts. Okay. Okay. No. Way too flat there. And even though this side of her is in shadow, there's going to be some reflected light passing because it's kind of hitting her from like, almost behind, not quite 3/4. So there's going to be some light seeping around. Hit her on the back there. Just getting to that point where the paint is just too dry. The only way I can get it to flow at all is to add, like, using the water out of my paint dish, water cup. So that's not really working too great for me anymore. And it's late enough that it's probably as good of a time to kind of probably call it here for this layer. Got a good, decent amount done today, and I'm feeling good about it. And I'm officially getting to the point where I'm making things worse than I'm making them better. So that means it's time to call it. And possibly I'll decide then if there's anything else that warrants coming back to in the collar after this, or if this pretty well takes care of my issues with it. That was my cat. That loud crash. That was my cat. He's fine. He just making a mess. I'm not sure that what I just did there will stay. I don't like it right now. As I was saying, that I'm making things worse and I should stop. I did, I'm still painting. Brilliant. What I do, guys, I am a hazard to myself all day, every day. Okay. Nope. Not okay yet. I'll get this. My intention is to flatten out most of this area, so I'm gonna cover up some of the red that was shining through on that area of black. Just run over that edge a little bit, soften it a little bit. Alright. That dries, it'll probably blend in with the rest of the black. It looks, from the camera, the way that the light's on it, it's just all reading pretty flat black, but there are some variations in there. We'll see what it looks like once it's dried. These things tend to flatten out a little bit once the paint's dried. That's just the nature of it. Nailed it again, y'all. Alright. So yeah, it's coming. I'm liking how things are coming along. We're getting more dimension out of the whole thing a little bit. Still more work to do. I'm guessing at least 2 more streaming sessions, at least 2 more. So we'll see. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. That's what we're going to assume will happen. And we'll call it a night here. So thank you everybody for joining me. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chatting and hanging out while I make a mess and paint and talk about random things. And I hope everybody will join me back here on Thursday for my next live stream. 10 a.m. Central Time for that one. So a little earlier in the day. And we'll do some more mess making. Keep this guy moving along. Yep. Said hello and goodbye and thank you for hanging out. It was good to see you here. Thank you for and so coming along. Thank you so much for that too. And a little bit at a time. We're getting there. All right. Good night, everybody, and have an awesome week. Hope to see you on Thursday. Bye.